So we are going to make an Easter cross, and we are using white cardstock, 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. But this one you can do it with just a regular piece of white copy paper if you don't have access to cardstock. Right here we placed something on the bottom because we will be using watercolors, just so that we don't smear paint all over our desk. Do this craft with markers, color pencils, crayons, or watercolors, whatever you have access to. We had some watercolors, so we decided to use that. And right here what we're going to do is we're going to use some tape to make a cross. Right here you could decide how big you want your cross to be, so you just measure it out and cut it out with some scissors. When you have your piece measured out, what you're going to do is find the middle of the paper and just place it as straight as you can in the middle. And you try not to press down too much on the tape because it makes it a little bit harder when you have to take it off. So you just lightly place it on there. And right now we're going to do the other part of our cross and basically do the same thing, measure it out. And then when you're ready, you place it evenly in the middle, or a little bit on top of the middle. So right here what we're doing is we're making some lines so that we can separate where we want our colors to change. You can do this freehand if you'd like, but since I'm having my 5-year-old daughter paint it by herself, I wanted to give her a reference of where she would be switching colors. And with the pencil you want to do it lightly, not too dark, just so that it doesn't show on top of whatever you decide to use, whether it's marker or crayon, color pencil, or watercolors. So you just want to do a very light line with the pencil. So for this part, I am letting my 5-year-old daughter take over, and she's going to do the rest by herself until we have to take the tape off. She is using watercolors. Like I said before, you could use crayons, markers, color pencils, whatever you have access to. It would obviously just give it a different effect, but since we did have watercolors, we wanted to go ahead and use that. And you're going to want to start from the top left all the way to the bottom, just because it makes it easier. Right here she's using the lines that I did with the pencils as a reference to where she's going to switch to the other color. If you decide to use watercolors, the less amount of water you put in the watercolor, the darker your color will be on the paper. And the more water you put, the lighter it'll show up on your paper. So I explained this to my daughter just so if she wants a different effect on her piece of art, she could definitely do that. So then from here, she's switching colors. She's doing her turquoise, but you can choose whatever color you want. Make this piece your own. And yeah, she's using those lines that I did with the pencil as a reference. And this is pretty much it. It's just repetitive. You switch colors whenever you get to the line. You just switch to another color and basically do the same thing till you get to the end. The point of this is you want to use alternating colors just to give it a nice effect. Right here, she's switching to a different color. You don't want to get colors right next to each other that are very similar. You want to make them pretty drastic just so you can see that nice effect. So for example, if she did a blue, light blue right there at the top and wanted to do like a turquoise, it just wouldn't give it that same effect. Of course, you can make it your own and do it whatever way you want, but we decided to do pretty drastic different colors just to give it that effect. One thing to note, if you end up using copy paper because you don't have access right now to cardstock, if you use watercolors, your page will wrinkle a little bit. When we finished this project, it bent a little bit, so what we ended up doing is taping it to the wall so that it dried and stayed pretty flat. So that is one thing to keep in mind if you do decide to do it and the only thing you have right now is copy paper. But like I said, you do have the option to use markers and crayons and color pencils, and it wouldn't wrinkle your paper, of course, because there's no water that's included. So just one thing to keep in mind. I really like this product just because there's so many ways to do it. You don't need a lot of supplies. It's a great project to do during Easter, as you explain to your child what the meaning behind Easter is. It's just really fun, very therapeutic. My daughter loved it. Children that are a little bit older, you could do this similar thing, but using either canvas or a piece of wood and using acrylic paints. I don't recommend doing that with the younger kids just because it can get a little bit messier and it sticks to the desk and it's a little bit harder to wipe off than watercolors. But this is definitely a craft that can be done either by an adult or a teenager. And it would require different materials just so it's a little bit more polished at the end for them. All right, so we're getting to our last color here. She's finishing up, and then the next step will be to lift off the tape from our piece of paper. What we are going to do is carefully lift off the tape. Make sure you do it slowly, just so it doesn't tear off. So there's my first one, that was the one that was over this piece of tape, and now I'm going to pull here, try to do it nice and slowly. Right here it got stuck a little bit, so I untaped it from the bottom instead of just tearing through. And I did tear off a little bit, but you couldn't really tell. You just flatten that piece out. And there you go, that's our finished product. And then this is how it looked after it dried.